I'm so sorry.
We have a little thing. Yeah. It's all, is it done? No. No.
We can check in with each person in the room first.
All right.
Everybody good?
Are we ready,
Okay.
Judy?
Sorry, our audio was off.
We're good then. Please repeat after me. I solemnly affirm
I solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws of the United States
and will obey the laws of the United States
and of the state of Ohio,
and of the state of Ohio,
and that I will, in all respects,
and that I will in all respects
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances
and the ordinances
of the Village of Yellow Springs,
of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of, and will faithfully
discharge the duties of the office of
Village Council.
Village Council.
Congratulations. It's official. Woo!
All right, and actually, you want to give?
Yes, I will do the official pinning in.
All right.
Judy?
Uh-oh.
Haven't done this since sorority days.
See?
Oh, the right way.
Got a pocket there. I hope there's a pocket.
There you go.
Can I?
Mhm. Just put it wherever. Yeah.
I'll teach you nothing but-
Exactly. Next time he'll have a jacket on. Thank you.
You may.
All right. And
Sign that later.
okay, Kevin, thank you. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you. Okay. Is Amanda here too? All right. I think I get to swear you in. So, yes. All right.
Handing this down.
I just sent it.
That's it. Huh? That's it.
Yeah.
It's this way. It's not here.
I like to walk
No.
down.
No, that's, are you go, use that one? You okay with that?
Huh?
Okay. Keep on. Don't mind me. Yeah,
Is this
yeah,
good?
but that's official. That's Gavin's.
So, yeah, all right. All right, so, we'll put our right hands up and, you can repeat after me. I solemnly affirm
I solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws of the United States
and obey the laws of the United States
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and will in all respects
and will in all respects
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and the ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and will faithfully discharge the duty of
and will faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of.
the office of the Environmental Commission.
All right, yeah, we welcome you. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yes. So this is the official pin and, yeah, welcome. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So I think. All right, next up, we have the consent agenda, which are the minutes of the last meeting. And I will entertain a motion to approve.
That we approve the minutes of the May 2nd, 2022 regular session of council.
I'll second that.
All right, and I think we can do all those in favor of.
Yep.
Yeah,
And because you're moving to approve, Gavin will just abstain from this.
okay. All right, all those in favor, yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
And you have to.
All right. So yeah, I was reminded I skipped announcements, yeah, of all things. And so Josue, I expect you must have some announcements.
I
So,
do.
all right.
No, it's that time of year when, it's that time of the year when we're prepping our pool for
Nice.
nice summer activities. And so this is the week that we announce at the council, because next time we can reconvene will be in June, and we will already have the pool opening. So our pool is opening on May 28th. So we're in full force prepping for the pool. So folks, if you're interested in pool passes, our utility window is closed for the pool passes, but we will resume pass sales at the pool once we open on the 28th. So that's the big announcement. Pool's open, and we'll fill the pool tomorrow. So you'll probably see a picture or two from us on filling the pool with
We're
our.
going to fill the pool tomorrow?
Yes.
All right. Wow.
We had some cleaning to do. We've had some vandalisms, and so we're working on clearing some
Really?
glass. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're hard at work. So, but yeah,
That's a bummer.
it really is. It really is. Holds us back.
Hmm.
But we'll
Okay.
open the pool on time.
Good. I know we have some other announcements. Juneteenth. Kevin.
Well, I didn't come prepared to discuss Juneteenth, quite honestly. I wonder if Philip would want to step up and say a few words.
So we have a couple events leading up to June.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the whole month of June is very busy. So we'll have Trails Day, an event on June 4th. So that's happening right before Juneteenth. On Juneteenth, there's quite a number of celebrations that are taking place. One, the Juneteenth committee has been organizing a walk from Wilberforce to Yellow Springs, and that's going to happen on Juneteenth. We're going to be a part of that activity, as has been practiced to be involved.
And I think we should say that means June 18th in this case. Yeah.
Yes. Philip, do you have the details to? Okay. I will pull up the figure and we'll put it up on the screen. So if you want to move on to the veto war while I get the image up, we'll get the image up on Juneteenth.
So this year, the Public Arts and Culture Commission is happy to announce that the 2022 VITA Award, which is the Village Inspiration and Design Award, will go to Eugene Clean Jean Lohman. In recognition of his outstanding contribution to our community's creative and vital, unique sense of identity. Add a little bit to this, and I'm sure I'll be corrected by someone if I'm wrong. But my understanding is that Gene was an Antioch student who never left. He is vital to a lot of people's, in this community's broadening of their musical horizons and tastes, including my own grandmother being turned on to the Ohio Players. So we thank Gene for his contributions, and he's, an invaluable member of the community.
And did you want to talk about the celebration that's happening?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So that's going to be on it's not the 19th, it's Friday from 6 to 8, this Friday from 6 to 8 at the Foundry Theater.
Yep.
I know that we have some contributions from local businesses as far as food goes, hors d'oeuvre kind of stuff, but people are free to bring what they would like to share. And we are going to have a DJ. We're basically just going to have a party. I mean, that's what it is. So there are the formalities, but mostly we're just going to have a party.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. And we love Clean Jean. Can't say enough. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. So, all right. I think, do we have any other announcements?
I have the Juneteenth image up. So here are the details. We're going to have a
thanks for
Juneteenth walk on
putting that up.
Yeah, on June 19th, 2022.
Yeah, I think the most important thing here is to register to walk.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so there's the link. We're going to put this out on social media and spread the word.
Sweet. All right. Thanks. Okay. So with that, I think we are going to move into petitions and communications. And I think, yeah.
Yep, glad to do it.
All right.
So the clerk will receive and file a report from the mayor's clerk regarding the two copies of the mayor's clerk report. Homie has submitted a letter regarding an Alzheimer's workshop, and John Hempfling has submitted a letter regarding the Lawson Place proposal. And that's all I have on record for petitions and communications.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I realized I'm like all over the map. So I was supposed to do a review of the agenda. So if there is anything that people want to add, subtract, or
New Orleans in spirit.
you know, I'm definitely bringing the joy from New Orleans. So, but that being said, I will not miss anything on the agenda, I promise. And so, does that mean you wanted to add something, Marianne?
No. I'm happy to have that spirit here.
Well,
Okay.
I just got back from Nashville, but I don't think I brought as much back with me. The hot chicken was something that folks said you had to try, and I did. So I guess I'm a pseudo-native Nashvilleian now, whatever that is. But yeah, lots of travel, lots of things happening. So
Dude, that hot chicken is awesome.
yeah, well,
So, yeah.
I enjoyed it. I passed the test.
All right, cool. So I think we are in legislation. And first up is going to be Ordinance 2022-19. Judy, we can read that in by title only.
Yes, and I noticed that you've got the wrong numbered ordinance in front of
Oh.
you. That will be corrected for signature. It is 2022-19, unlike the version that's online.
All right.
This is to approve the form and authorize the execution of the 2022 solar energy schedule with American Municipal Power Incorporated and taking other actions in connection therewith regarding solar generation energy purchases.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So, Josue?
Yes, this is me. This is the second reading. We talked a bit about this at the last council meeting, that we are looking to add solar energy to our portfolio for an effective year of 2024. What you're approving today is to allow us to continue at the negotiations with AMP and the Blue Creek Partnership to be part of the group that will utilize 250 megawatts of power coming out of Blue Creek. Again, this authorization is to allow us to stay at the negotiation table with this group. We will come back with a final energy contract once the project and the negotiations are completed. And just to highlight the PPA figure, we're looking at a price not to exceed 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour on this project. So. And we're looking, we have some flexibility according to the recommendation that you have in your packet. We would add 0.7 megawatts to our portfolio mix, and that is a very risk adverse recommendation from AMP. We can certainly go higher than that, and we will evaluate as the time comes how much power we will buy once we're ready to do so. Part of that is why we are keeping ourselves flexible to how much power we buy is that we have dreams of having more local solar generation. So, and I think that we are hopeful for these dreams to come reality, and we can find a way to bring about more local solar generation. So that's the highlight on Ordinance 2219. Any questions?
Yes, also, I know we're not like real pressed, like necessarily for time, but I just want to consider that we will, it looks like we will still get a full report from the AMP team. That looks like it's tentatively scheduled for the first meeting of next month.
Correct.
Okay. But
That
then
was supposed to happen today.
Right.
But yeah.
right. But even with that, we still aren't being pressed for time in terms of making a decision before things get out of hand, if you will, before circumstances change. So what I'm trying to get to is we've been talking about this for a month,
Yes.
and then we pushed the AMP presentation out. But just want to assure anyone who's been watching, and I'm sure we'll have the whole conversation about Rex and all that later, but just want to make sure that we're not rushing towards anything. Things are taking a natural pace, just circumstances dictated that we couldn't do the presentation.
Correct. Yes. And again, today's approval on this particular legislation is not binding us to a specific contract. The contract is going to come at a later time and we choose how much energy to purchase then.
Yep. All right, good.
Well, so since Kevin brought it up, what is the timeline?
For this particular authorization, we need to get back to the AMP Association by
No.
July 1. Oh, I'm sorry, what timeline?
In terms of like, how we're gonna, like, when AMP is gonna decide on the solar piece.
Yeah, it isn't necessarily on AMP side where the constraints have been with regards to this Blue Creek project. It's been supply chain issues, construction issues. The project is not slated to begin generation until 2024. So our end, the negotiations are still moving just because there are certain procurement challenges and construction challenges that the project has suffered. So from the AMP side, we're ready to lock in a price. It's just that the developer, we're seeing some challenges there. But we agreed on principle that the contract is not to exceed an energy price of 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So we know that upper ceiling of what energy is going to cost. There's an opportunity for it to be at that price point or lower. And for this particular authorization, the membership has agreed to have all the participation responses by July 1. So to Kevin's point, this particular legislation, we don't have to get something in tomorrow. We got until July 1 for the association to agree to the general terms so that the AMP team, the negotiation team, can continue their work to negotiate this contract.
Question? I don't know why I asked that.
You should totally ask that. So, yeah.
One note on the AMP presentation, team was apologetic. They thought that they could make today's meeting, but time constraints. But they'll be here next week, and just to tee up that conversation.
So they'll be here for the June 1st.
For the first meeting in June, correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, sweet. Marianne, Carmen?
Oh, yeah. I
Question?
don't see any problem with this.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're good. All right. Sweet. Okay. So then yeah.
Remember to open that public hearing.
Yes. So we will open the public hearing and any questions or comments? All right, if not, we're going to close the public hearing.
Are we just, real quick, I just want to make sure we're monitoring either Zoom or any other virtual channels for questions?
Yep, I appreciate that. It looks like everybody on Zoom is
That's it.
a team member.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that there is another meeting happening, an emergency meeting. No, that didn't happen. Okay. So
Okay.
I thought there was another meeting.
All right.
Okay.
All right, sweet. Okay, so then, Judy, this is a first reading or a second reading?
This is the second reading.
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and close the public meeting and call a roll.
All right, McQueen,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
DeVore Leonard,
Yes.
Stokes,
Yes.
Couch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up, Judy, I think we can read that in by title only as well.
2021, I'm sorry, I just.
Yes.
2020, sorry.
2022-20.
Sorry. Got a few things happening over at my end of the table. This is authorizing the village manager pursuant to the master service agreement with American Municipal Power Incorporated to execute the 2022 landfill energy schedule for landfill generated energy purchases.
Can I get a motion?
Second.
Okay.
All right. Yes, this is me. As you know, energy prices have gone, had some major changes, major increases, and some communities more than doubling at their cost. The surrounding communities around us are no different. We saw day and power and light supply prices go from a little under 5 cents to almost 11 cents a kilowatt hour. This legislation before you is to procure 700 kW of power starting August of this year through 2023 at a price not to exceed $60.85 a megawatt. So we want to lock in some renewable energy at a reasonable rate so that we are less susceptible to the market effects that are happening in the energy markets. So if you recall, we had one energy contract expire last year, the Blue Creek and the EDI landfill that is expiring this year as well. So we have some more energy that we're having to buy off the market. This energy contract would allow us to buy renewable energy at a negotiated rate. So we're buying less off the general market. So, and yeah, take any questions you may have.
For how many years or what's the time?
It's beginning August of this year through December of 2023.
A year and a half.
Oh,
A
really?
year and a half,
It's
yeah.
just a 2-year?
It's a short contract compared to our other contracts. This is to fill in some gaps while we wait for this other project that you just approved that kicks in 2024.
Oh,
And this is a landfill energy contract, so
Okay.
it's renewable.
Carmen, did you have a question, comment?
No.
Okay. Kevin?
No, I'm good, and I appreciate Josue connecting the previous piece of legislation with this one and how they're related. You know,
Yes.
that's for longer term. In the meantime, we've got this gap, and this fills that gap. So
Correct.
sounds
Correct.
good.
And you know, this is the first reading on this ordinance, so there'll be a second reading in June, and the AMP team will be here during that time, and we can also queue up questions for that meeting as well. So,
Is this essentially replacing the one that the landfill one that we are out of?
yes.
And for the same amount of energy approximately?
It's 700 kW. Johnny's on the line. I don't know if Johnny, you've got the chart to compare it. I don't have it, but I can certainly get you that answer, Mary Ann. But yes, we're buying a little over 20% of the energy off the market, and we want to reduce that number. And by market, I mean, you know, the
Right.
open market, not under contract.
Yeah.
And that energy is a mix of sources. There's some nuclear, coal, and some gas, whatever is the cheapest.
Right.
Johnny, do you want to add anything?
I think we're having some.
You just came up.
Okay.
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 All right.
All right.
Sorry, I was a little distracted.
No, I did not. So I am going to open the public hearing. And do we have any questions or comments? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and we'll call a vote.
All right, Stokes,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
DeBoer Leonard,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Couch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is emergency reading of 2022-21.
I'll try to read it urgently.
Yes, please do. And but I think we should talk a little bit. I'm reminded that Judith mentioned that we should highlight why we do emergency readings. So
Okay. This is enacting new section 2060.04 credit card policy of the Codified Ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio, and amending section 505 of the Personnel Policy Manual and declaring an emergency.
all right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So Judy, do you want to mention why we do emergency readings? Just as I think that could be relevant.
Certainly. Well, anything to do with finance can always be an emergency per charter. And then items are read as emergencies if they need to go into effect prior to the 30-day sort of hold period that occurs for any ordinance. There is 30 days before that ordinance will go into effect. So if you read it as an emergency, it goes into effect immediately upon adoption. You can choose to give it 2 readings, but it goes into effect immediately at that second reading if it is approved. So yes, the emergency language is held out for things that just need to go into effect prior to that 30-day hold.
Okay. Especially when we've not addressed what the state wants for 3 years. So, all right, Brianne.
All right. So back in 2018, the General Assembly saw fit to enact 71731. And what it said was not later than 3 months after the effective date, the legislative authority of the municipal corporation shall enact a policy. It's not to say we didn't already have one. We had a section in our personnel policy manual. And when Matt came on board in October of 2020, we had an administrative credit card policy. However, we were not compliant with that section of the revised code that says the legislative authority shall enact it, which is why we're doing it as an emergency, because it needs to be approved by the legislative authority, which is council.
All right. Thanks, Brianne. So Matt, I'm going to have you come up as well and just kind of talk about like why we haven't done this since 2018. And so, yeah.
In October 2020, when I came aboard, we addressed a administrative change to the credit card policy, and it was based on a recommendation by Julian and Groove. And I do not really have a good reason why I didn't go before council.
Okay.
I guess I just have a general question. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of the verbiage of the changes, but my general concern is, has it cost us anything other than maybe a reminder from the state or someone? Has the lack of policy caused any harm?
Again, we had a policy.
Right.
We've been following it. So the fact that the legislative body as far as whether it has cost us anything, we haven't had any audit findings to date. And again, this is primarily to comply with the letter of the statute, that the legislative authority needs to approve it, not just the administration.
But the auditors did say we should do something about this, right?
Yes, which is why we're doing it now.
And the reason we haven't done something about this?
We didn't, I mean,
because-
Matt came on board in October of 2020 and I came on board in July of 2020. And we know that it had not been previously approved by a prior council.
Okay. All right. So I feel like we need to go through a few things in this policy. So the first one is, shoot. Okay. All right. So I know we're looking at like the policy from the state, and the first thing I saw was, okay, it was something about if you did not do this, that you were, all right, remind me where I'm at, Brianne. So there was a piece about, well, actually.
Are you looking at the change?
Yeah, well, it had to do with Judy specifically.
You're probably looking at the last page before Exhibit B, number 10, would be my guess.
Okay.
That'd be H.
Can you read it?
Well, I don't know if I'm right.
I mean, well, I think you are right. Like,
So the section that I'm intuiting that you're going after is number 10, H, use of a credit card account for expenses beyond those authorized by council constitutes misuse of a credit card. An officer or employee of the village or a public servant as defined under RC 2921.
yeah, so I just generally have some issues with the misuse policy. And I mean, I think that's, what Judy has brought up. So I'd like to understand that a little bit better. So.
Well, under the revised code, section 1731, A7, we have to include the actions or omissions that qualify as misuse and what the potential ramifications are of misuse, which would include for an employee, any disciplinary action, et cetera.
Okay. So is there the state does not give any option for council members to have any access to the credit card?
Well, again, this is based on what we have been doing historically. In terms of who are the authorized users, I asked the finance director and the village manager, who are the current authorized users. If council wanted to say council members have an appropriation for credit card use for council expenses, council could do that. Again, the main reason that we are bringing this is because whatever the credit card policy says needs to be approved by council.
Right. All right. So Matt, your thoughts on this? I'm not saying council has to have any access to credit cards, but Judy has mentioned something to me, which I think made sense, which was that she kind of holds the credit card for council. So, yeah. So Matt, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I'm not sure I can speak to the comment I didn't hear from Judy regarding holding a card for council.
Well, I guess the bottom line is, does council have any role in the credit card, or should we totally be separated? I don't understand.
Cards are issued to individuals. No, to my knowledge, there's no authority that's granted to council people to spend on a credit card.
So you think, from your perspective, council should not have any influence over using a credit card? Is that?
That's not what I'm saying.
Can I interject, please?
Yeah.
So I think that I have some questions regarding what is misuse of the credit card? What does that mean? And if cards are issued to individuals and entities, right? Unless someone is an authorized user, they are not an authorized user. That's my understanding.
That's correct.
So unless someone is an authorized user, they are not. And because what happens if someone's not an authorized user and the card is used for whatever reason, there has to be really stringent checks and balances to ensure that we're following our charter and Ohio Revised Code, right? I mean, is that fair?
I believe that's pretty fair. I think we're also somewhat simplifying the process in that any purchase, regardless of whether a credit card or by invoice, should be entered with a requisition, in that through a checks and balances process, we're able to, one, set aside the money and show that it's obligated through an encumbrance. Without asking for the money, I have no idea of operating the budget, staying within our budget constraints. In this case, there's also a requisition process that would be needed. So it's beyond just a credit card question. I think that you're getting at, Brian, is just you've got to request the funds and
You do attend these meetings, and so you're involved in our discussions about this. So I think what I want to understand, and I think Carmen raises a great question, is, again, if, it needs to be that council has no access to the credit cards, like, that's great. But my understanding is that Judy thought she was holding a credit card for council. And so I think we just need to have some clarity around that. Personally, I don't want to have like any involvement in credit card reconciliation, whatever, So, but there is a lack of clarity around that for sure. So
I think anytime you have a credit card, it's issued to an individual. I don't think, I'm not sure I understand the misunderstanding between representing for council. We still need requisitions in on behalf of the council.
No, I mean, yeah, no doubt about that. But I mean, the bottom line is like, so if there are purchases for council, like, who handles those? Do you handle those? Does Judy handle those? Like,
I believe Judy would handle those through a workflow process. She should
Okay.
submit those requisitions.
I mean, so one thing that has come up, and we're going to be talking about this at the end of the meeting, is, like, challenges around, I guess, like, where, council is coming from. And this is the problem with that lack of clarity, is if we don't understand how we're supposed to, like, deal with transactions, then we've got a problem. And so
I'm finding this conversation to be very confusing, and I'm not sure continuing it is going to help, but I think it's beyond credit card. I think it's how, and the only generally reason a council member is going to want to spend money is going to be either for a special project that's not a commission or part of a commission project, and we've been working that through, but that's not about credit card.
Correct. So I guess I'll just be clear that our executive session tonight is going to be about allegations around spending. And I don't have a lot of clarity about how we're supposed to do that as a council. And so I think Judy's been, very clear on her aspect. And so we won't be able to finish this discussion tonight, but yeah, I'm concerned about, like, yeah, I don't have clarity around this, so.
In terms of what is misuse and you don't have clarity, that's why there are 10 sections under what is misuse. Try to make it as clear as possible. And that language is not something I came up with off the top of my head. I mean, I researched it. I used the Ohio Municipal League examples. I looked at other communities' credit card policies. So if you have a question, you want it clarified, ask me. Okay. The credit card use policy, as it stands now, council members could not use credit cards. Any council purchase should be directed through the clerk. If council wanted to change that, it wouldn't be appropriate to do it right now. It would be when you're looking at appropriations for next year, because there are municipalities that appropriate a council budget for each council person. But again, that is council's job, is to, if there is a credit card policy, review it, analyze it, scrutinize it, and eventually adopt it. But the revised code says that you have to adopt a
But
credit
also,
card policy.
Brianne, like, it's a treasurer's job and from the proposal that we're looking at a compliance officer's job. So, I mean, it's not just about council, right?
It's
I
not
mean-
just about council. Council has ultimate authority. Council has to, under the revised code, adopt a policy.
But I mean, what we're looking at tonight is a compliance officer role, right? I mean, I think I read that.
What we're looking at is not necessarily a compliance officer role as much as it is checks and balances. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, as Matt said, checks and balances. Whenever you've got a credit card purchase, you need to put a requisition in the system first. That way, finance department can verify that the funds.
So
are
that's
there.
one thing I wanted to actually, that was one thing on my list. So if I saw that one of the violations is if you don't have an advance, I guess, proposal for, a credit card use, that could be a reason that you're like out of compliance.
Mhm.
All right. So I want to
And
understand
again,
that.
this is something that if you want me to bring in the auditor of state's office to explain that,
We've already got the auditor
we will.
and we've already got the
involved.
auditor here. So, I mean, so that's not like something new. So, but I guess I just want to understand, like, so literally if that credit card is used like ever without like advance notice, then that's a violation.
Yes, because again, there are emergency purchases and there are situations where emergencies happen. But generally speaking, you're going to enter a requisition for anything you need to purchase on a credit card.
For clearing that up. I mean, I've gotten some clarity. So I think the bottom line is that how the money moves has to be heavily scrutinized because it's not this body's money, technically.
You're in charge of legislating and appropriating.
Exactly,
So,
right.
yeah,
But it's not ours as a body.
It's the taxpayers' money.
Precisely. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
But what's interesting is that what's articulated in this policy is that if we have defined like the policies around that, those should be accepted. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to get into executive session a little bit more. So I don't have a lot more to say, but anyway, I mean, I think there are some like interesting questions around the policies that's being proposed for us. So. Okay.
Because it is an emergency reading. It's the one, you've got one shot unless you want to do a second reading of it as an emergency, which is completely acceptable.
Yeah. I think it's important for us to talk about this in executive session. So yeah, I'm not gonna propose that, and I am gonna move into resolution. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
I get the sense that there's some information that hasn't been shared with all of council, and I'm not going to ask for what that is. But my understanding is that council is being asked to approve policy that already exists, and that the only change is what is in Exhibit B, underlined and in bold. Am I correct in that?
It's not 100% accurate. We have a policy that council has adopted as of the latest personnel policy manual revision. However, that took effect way before 2018. So this code section that would be created, this 20604, is brand new. It implements most of the provisions of the administrative policy that Matt drafted, as well as the recommendations of the Ohio Municipal League.
Thanks, Brianne. So I don't know, Mary Ann, do you want to like move to like vote on this, or? I mean, I think we need to discuss this a little bit further, so.
What are the implications of not voting on it? Are there any penalties we're going to incur?
That I can't answer definitively, other than to note the Ohio Auditor of State has advised we are out of compliance with state law. Because the legislative authority, being council, has
Then
not.
I
approved it.
suggest that we vote on it, and then if later we decide we want to change it, we can change it, right?
Yeah,
Can't
you
we?
can always amend it as council.
I would also say that it's kind of like eating an unhealthy diet for 15 years and you suddenly realize you need an apple a day. It's probably not going to do you any further damage if you wait a week to start eating your apple a day. You could take the next 2 weeks and read it a second time. It's been out of compliance for kind of a while now. And any auditor who didn't have great awareness that you were taking it under advisement, contemplating it, and thinking it over thoroughly with an eye to passage would be derelict in their duty, I believe.
And, you know, and that out of compliance has been almost 4 years. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some issues that I have understood need to be discussed further, so. But, yeah, if anyone wants to make a motion.
I'm going to just submit that based on Brian, excuse me, the comments that you've made and the fact that we're already planning an executive session and the fact that, you know, as important as this is, it certainly is not a hard requirement that it be addressed at this very moment. And if we can clear everything out in clear everything up in executive session, we can come back into this meeting and approve it.
Yeah.
But since there seem to be questions, you know, I would submit that we not move on this legislation at this point in time.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything else, so we're going to go into the last piece of legislation, which is 2022-20, and we can do that by title only.
And I neglected to add, there is an additional resolution, if you will permit, to add after this regarding the sewer reroute. If
Okay.
you can
do
bear
that.
with that, but number 2022-28 is authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement for the sale of village-owned renewable energy credits.
All right, can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
All right.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Brian. This initially came on the radar because we were presented with an opportunity to take advantage of an arbitrage opportunity where we sell our RECs in a compliance market and buy volunteer RECs outside of our network. Essentially, they are RECs, which a REC is governed by the EPA, and there's specific standards of what a REC is. So certainly, in terms of what their meaning are, that renewable energy credits, they are the same, they're just in different markets. So we were presented with an opportunity to sell our Blue Creek wind RECs, which are right now going for $20 to $21 in the marketplace, and replace them with green E-RECs that we could buy in the volunteer market for $3 to $4. So given the 3,155 Blue Creek wind RECs that we have, we could sell them to the tune of some around current price points, over $60,000, buy green E-RECs that will cost us almost $10,000, and we'll be able to net make $50,000 in revenues that would be available for capital improvements in the electric enterprise. We're looking at all of our options, and certainly with the uncertainty that we're facing now, energy markets, a pending electric engineering, we would benefit highly from having additional cash reserves available to make such investments. So right now, we're looking at taking advantage of the opportunity that's available to us to sell at a time that it's high, buy green E-RECs, and put some money in capital reserves to give us an option down the road for investments or investments in our electric infrastructure or other programming. I had hoped that remember that the timing of this resolution coincided with AMP representatives being at the meeting so that they could speak about our energy portfolio. But unfortunately, they're not here today, and we have the resolution already scheduled for today. So I think that this is in line with, this resolution is in line with past practices of council to look to take advantage of market opportunities and have those funds available for investment and our electric infrastructure or programming infrastructure.
All right. So can we hear from Johnny Burns? Because he's been vocal about selling RECs in the past. Johnny, you there?
And I want to speak to.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, Brian, you know my opinion on selling of RECs. If they go for the correct reason, I can see it. We have an engineering study out right now, so we don't know what the main needs are for the village. We can guess what the needs are, but we have the engineering study going out. I can tell you the last two times I did not agree with where the funds went. Still don't agree with where the funds went. But if we can control it to where they go back into the grid system where they should be and the capital funds, then they're probably okay to sell. But you know my true feelings on it, so that's where I'll leave it.
All right. Thanks, Johnny. Marianne?
I suggest that we table this. There are differing opinions on the, not effectiveness, there are differing opinions on selling RECs. And I think that it's very complicated. I don't know, I'm not saying that I know everything about it, I don't, but I would like more opinions for council to consider. In particular, I'd like to hear from AMP. I'd also like to hear from Power Future Clean Ohio, which is an organization, a consortium of communities in Ohio, of which we are a part. Communities that are working to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. There's a reason to not sell RECs, okay? If we were to sell RECs, I don't support buying other ones just to show that supposedly we're green. And if the only reason that I would support selling our RECs is if we put them into some kind of project that is clearly going to lower our greenhouse gas emission. In other words, if we took them and put them toward, for example, local solar. To me, that's the only rationale for selling them, which is to say, okay, yes, we are using green energy from wherever it comes from, but we think that we can sell the RECs and get the most bang for our buck by doing our own local green energy stuff. So I am suggesting that we table this and that we wait until after AMP comes. And also I have talked to the Joe Florday from Power Future Clean Ohio, who has said that he would come and talk to us, not just about RECs, but about that organization and how that organization can help us do better or do what it, help us see what other opportunities we have in terms of greening our portfolio.
Cool. Good feedback. Before you speak, Kevin, Carmen, you seem like you wanted to say something.
So are you moving that we table? I second.
All right, well, I'll take that as
Yeah.
like a motion in a
So-
second, and we'll open the discussion. So Kevin?
So I guess I just want to talk, get some clarity regarding any sense of urgency regarding the
Mhm.
arbitrage, this situation, which is different than selling RECs for cash to use the cash for something. We're not there. We're taking advantage of an opportunity to improve the number of RECs we have by effectively trading some green RECs for some other green RECs.
Mhm.
So I don't think we've gotten to that ethical dilemma of, are we selling the RECs to the right people, or are we using the revenue from the sale of RECs for the right thing? We're not there yet. We're taking advantage of an opportunity so that whatever we decide to do down the road, we will have greater leverage because we'll have a higher number of RECs to work with.
Well, and I think that's something we brought up is what the urgency is. And so, Josue, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, if there is a sense of urgency, is that there's a market opportunity, an arbitrage opportunity. So it's an economic opportunity. I think we are obviously concerned about the overall effect of having having RECs. What do we want to do with the funds that could be generated of it? Or we're talking about taking a principal position of selling or not selling RECs. I think there's a lot of varying opinions out there about RECs. With regards to the economic opportunity that's available to us, we're following practices that are established by the US EPA, the Green Energy REC Coalition that is responsible for compliance, monitoring RECs, and the sale of RECs. So we're doing something that's permissible in the marketplace that's driven by economics. That's the opportunity in front of us. There are obviously other issues that affect RECs, and what do we do with RECs? We would not be the first municipality to take advantage of arbitrage opportunity. There's Oberlin that's well known in the state for its arbitraging opportunities. So there is a economic and market side to the conversation, and there's a principled and strategy side to RECs.
And Oberlin has a climate action plan that they've had for well over a decade, and they use, and I am not up to date on Oberlin, except that I know that they use that money for their the climate action work that they do. I mean, the reason why we're doing green energy is the principle of it, not the economics of it, right? So
But we also
I
need to
think
think about how
until we
continue-
have a better understanding of what this means, I mean, there's a reason that the lower cost RECs are lower cost because they're less valuable. What does that mean? I don't know, but I don't think we have enough. If we're going to go to the trouble and extra expense of having have contracts of green energy, then I think we really need to feel like, wow, yeah, we all really understand what it means to sell the RECs and buy cheap RECs. And I don't think we do know that.
Gavin. You look like you wanted to weigh in. I mean, I will say we have some sense of that, Marianne. And I guess I also think all of us at this table, except for Gavin, have indicated our interest in turning around those RECs to either, reduce costs energy-wise for our residents, or to think about investing in our electric system. I mean, 2 meetings ago, Carmen, Kevin, and I said, go for it. Right? I mean, so anyway, so we've all been there, and Marianne and I have been there as well. So,
No, I didn't support selling.
we sold the RECs.
I did not support selling RECs the last time. Yes, we did sell them, but I voted against it.
All right. Well, okay. I remember it differently, but I think that, I guess the bottom line is, go ahead, Carmen.
No, I realized that I kind of jumped on that, but just, is it so very urgent that we can't table it?
Well,
Is that what's, I mean,
that's the question
like,
that's
is the-
most interesting to me is like, does this 3 times on the dollar, possibility happen now or forever?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
And that's difficult to say, right?
Okay.
Who has a crystal ball on what the
Sure.
markets do? I think that where prices are, what we can get and buy and replace at Rex, this is a good time. We haven't seen this, the prices for these Rex go in the PJM market as they're going for now. We haven't seen that in the recent past. And so is it going to stay at this $20 or above price point? I don't know. Because we don't know what other players are going to do. Are they going to offload their Rex, and then is that going to satisfy buyers, and will they be paying what they're paying for the Rex now? We don't know. We know what we have in front of us. I don't know what the energy market's going to do in 3 months or 6 months. I think had I known what gas prices were going to go for this year, I would have, extended our gas contracts last year. But yeah, we were not able to. I don't have that crystal ball into the energy.
So my feeling
calculated
is
risk.
if we make a decision tonight or at the next meeting, it's going to be about the same. And so, if we want to wait, that's okay. But are you making a recommendation?
I will follow the principles that I follow as the manager, looking at what the law allows, what arbitrage opportunities allow. There's very good reasons to do what we're doing. And I would recommend that, yes, we have an arbitrage opportunity. I would recommend that we provide ourselves the opportunity of taking advantage of what Mark is doing, and it gives us
All
revenue.
right, so I'm just gonna interrupt you, and I'm gonna make a motion because I think part of this was.
We're not going to close out with the current.
You have a motion table.
Oh,
On the table, yeah.
what's the motion?
So you have a motion to table by Mary Ann and second by Carmen.
Okay, all right, so let's make a roll call on that.
Brown,
What are we voting?
Whether we're gonna
we
table
table
Oh, okay.
this.
the motion is tabled, yes. So yes, it's tabled, no is I don't want to table it.
Said Brown, right?
Yes, Brown.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Can I abstain?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Actually, you can, but in general, when you do abstain, it should be for a specific reason. So if you say, I simply don't.
This
have
is
enough
pretty
information
new
at
to
my
him,
first
yeah.
meeting, I will abstain for lack of
Sure,
information.
it's my first meeting. I abstain because I feel like I need more information. I could ask a bunch of questions about Rex and arbitrage, but I thought I would
Yeah.
not take more time doing that.
I think ask them questions about Rex and arbitrage.
Okay, if now's the appropriate time, I'd be happy to talk about it more. There seemed like there was some energy toward.
Yeah.
No, so while it's roll calling, like it's time for discussion is over, I guess what the point that I'm making is, if you abstain, just make clear why, because sometimes people go, he just didn't want to get in the mix.
I understand,
So
sure.
then, it just lets everyone out there know, oh, he just waiting to get a little seasoned here and.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get a little seasoned here.
I've got some salt and pepper packets.
See?
That is not gonna do it.
No.
Ouch.
No.
Did I get all of you? That was,
Mhm.
It's, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the queen.
yes.
Yes.
So we have
So that. it
2-2,
fails.
which means it failed.
Yeah, table means it fails, so you can continue to have discussion.
So, yeah, Gavin, please.
Okay, so this idea that some recs are different than other recs, I guess the way it was originally impression they were the same. So could someone help me understand what the difference is between Rec A and Rec B?
And Josue, before you begin, I just want to, I was going to ask you before now
Mhm.
to validate Mary Ann's assertions that numerically, the E-RECs are less costly than the current RECs we have. So she used the phrase cheaper,
Yes.
but there was another phrase she used that suggested the quality of the RECs. I want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Yes, so in its essence, a REC is a REC whether they are coming from wind, landfill, solar, as long as a REC is a REC that it's regenerated off 1 megawatt of power. So as long as you have 1 megawatt of power produced from a renewable energy, that translates to a REC. So they have to be verified against that.
So yeah, so we should say
Yeah.
REC means renewable energy credit.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So they're the same. Where the price difference comes into play is in what market is the REC available. So we have RECs that have been generated in the PJM market, and that is the Ohio, Virginia, New York, Maryland, DC, that northeastern corridor, where the RECs are demanding a higher price because they have to meet a certain number. Utility distributors have to meet a certain number in their portfolio, and the availability of solar renewable energy credits are limited within the PJM market. So because they're limited, they command a higher price in the PJM market where we have generated our credits. We can sell our credits in this market, and because we are not required to hold them for compliance requirements, we could go buy equivalent RECs in another market, say in an Arizona market or a California market, where there's a greater availability of RECs available. And because there's greater availability, they're commanding a lower price point. We can buy RECs in that market. And that is the big distinction in their price points, where they're being transacted. There's another element to what is a REC the same all around. There's terms being used, cheaper RECs, because there might mean something. They're being generated by different means. There might not be utility grade. There might not be the same generation. So you're talking about what's the difference between wind generated RECs, solar generated RECs, landfill, or a hybrid of these things.
So then to clarify, the green RECs that we would be buying,
these are
What?
certified by Green E Association. So they're still meeting that standard that they're being generated from a renewable source, and that it complies, that it meets the energy standard at a 1 megawatt REC. Now we have options to buy a green that's specific to a source. So for example, if we're selling wind generator RECs, we can go into the Green E market RECs and buy only wind. Like we get to have a choice, or we buy them from a different source. So then, because of the source and where they're in their location, they would command a different price point. So we have some flexibility there, but nevertheless, a REC is still a REC.
Can I just talk?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I hope y'all understand, nobody tells you all this stuff, so you're learning as you go. So the benefit of asking questions is to find out. The disadvantage is it takes longer. I'm still trying to figure out what the right balance is. So why do we need RECs? Like, it sounds like like if we sold them to make money, but then we buy more so that we can show that we have renewable energy.
Yeah.
We get,
So it's just a,
I mean, yeah,
so like,
RECs are
what's
part of.
so why not make money to spend it on
Right.
actually producing something that's
Right.
good for the environment? Help me understand why.
So there's
show.
different
Right.
thoughts on this. In Ohio specifically, and a lot of these things are dependent on the regional politics or the regional economic system. So in Ohio, municipalities like us that invested early on in renewable energy projects led the innovation of renewable energy generation. So because of players like us in the marketplace that contributed to to bring in these projects to fruition, they came to an existence because we were committed to the green energy revolution. These projects came about. The association, AMP as an association, also pushed the state to require renewable energy sources in the other utilities. You may remember HB6, the nuclear energy thing. That bill gutted took away a lot of the requirements of green energy in the utility sector in Ohio. So it made the market, it affected the market. But in its essence, why are RECs important? Small municipalities like us led that revolution, and now other utility providers are required to have green energy. So there's a value to be said that, hey, we led this this innovation. We had to pay the premium for it because these projects cost more than coal generation, nuclear power generation, other things. So one could say, well, we had to pay for it earlier upfront. Why not benefit economically from trading them, selling them? So that's one argument. There's others that would say, well, it's only green energy if you get to keep that original REC. Like if you keep that original certificate, then
that is the big issue, is if we sell our RECs, are we basically abdicating our green energy portfolio? That's what this comes down to. And so this is why the proposal on the table is about, replacing our greenest RECs for green RECs that are, supported by the EPA. And it gives us a substantial amount of money to either save costs for our villagers or to improve our energy portfolio. So that's really, I think, what's on the table. I mean, Mary Ann, if you think I'm characterizing it incorrectly, let's say.
Well, as I said, I don't think that we understand it. I don't think any of us council members, and I'll say Josue too, I don't think we truly understand what we're doing here. And I think it behooves us to get some more information so that we can say we do understand it. If it looked like this was going to, well, I have a question and a suggested amendment. The question is, the resolution that we're voting on says nothing about buying the cheap RECs. It only says something about selling the expensive RECs. Does it?
Did you get the updated version that I passed out? Because there was some information missing on the version that was in the packet. So the difference is that what is added in section 1 is a sentence that says, further, the village manager is authorized to purchase up to 3,155 green E-RECs through AMP to offset the sale of village RECs. That was added.
Okay. I see. Yeah, thank you.
So I guess, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
So I would support the sale if we had an amendment that said all of the money that we make goes to some local renewable energy project that we do.
I'm certainly okay with the spirit of that, but I don't want it to cause too much of a guardrail where it eliminates some things that Johnny might be in favor of. I mean, what I just heard is great, but there's other stuff that's good as well that I think it precludes. So I just want to be careful, that, yeah, it's all about making Johnny Burns happy. No, well, I said that tongue in cheek, but I'm in agreement with Johnny. We did some good stuff with the revenues from the sale of the RECs.
Yes.
And we all, some of us advocated for some of those uses of those funds.
Mm-hmm.
All we're doing now, in my estimation, in my understanding, is a transaction to increase the number of RECs that we end up with.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So the net total recs will remain the same. We're going to sell 3,155 and we'll buy 3,000, but we'll have
We'll
cash.
generate the
Yes.
value. All right, Johnny. So Kevin put you on the spot.
What was the question from Kevin? I just heard everybody laughing.
It was nothing personal. Johnny.
Kevin basically said, like, are you supportive of us going with this rec transition or transaction?
As long as the funds would go to an area, I think, Johnny, you use the phrase the grid. So you're saying if we do sell for cash, we want those revenues to come back and improve our electrical grid. And I was just trying to be careful in that we didn't say something, again, what Marion said was positive, but I didn't want it to preclude some things that you might have in mind.
And if I may add a little more context, just in case he missed it, the Marianne supported the action of Senate Rex only if the revenue went to support local renewable energy projects, and particularly if I'm thinking generation projects that will generate renewable energy. And so, Kevin, to your point is, what does Johnny have to say? Like, you don't want to put too many guardrails. Is it going to affect other projects, or is that action too limiting?
And that's the question. I mean, if we just need to change a word or two to make sure, again, everybody's happy, I think that's where we're trying to get to is as long as we're in a situation where the eventual revenue, if there actually is any revenue, that it does go towards making our situation better. However that's phrased, as long as it includes any and everything that we would be in agreement with in terms of improving our electrical situation.
Good clarification, Johnny.
All right, so Kevin, let me back up. When I come to the village in 2014 until 2020, the village had a policy that they did not sell. They actually retired their recs or they did not sell the recs. We have sold recs the last 3 years if we sell this year. Am I happy that we go to sell them? No. Am I going to be satisfied if they go for what Mary Ann says, or if we put them back into the electric grid? I think it'd be fine that way. Am I happy? I'm not going to lie to you, and I'll probably get in trouble tomorrow, but no. I do not want to sell the recs, but if we are going to sell the recs, I want council's commitment to put it back into the electric fund, capital improvements, because we have an engineering study that is going to come, and I bet it's going to shock everyone on council how far behind the 8 ball we really are. But if we're talking about putting solar on the train station, we're putting solar somewhere else to help offset some of our costs and put back into the grid, then okay, I'm okay with it.
Right. And thank you for that, Johnny. And again, the reason I spoke up is, Johnny, you mentioned the engineering study and things of that nature. And I just, again, don't want us to be in a situation where it's like, well, no, we said it had to be for renewable generation. So we can't use any of those dollars for the study. So again, I'm just wanting to make sure I'm, again, moving in the same direction, just don't want to hamstring us when we want to spend the money for the kind of things that Johnny and his team do for us.
If I think what I'm hearing Johnny correctly and what also Mary Ann is saying, if those funds go into the capital improvement fund for the electric fund, if they go into capital for the electric, you folks have to also weigh in on, yes, that's an appropriate expenditure at that point, but it can't go for anything outside of electric, which sort of does what Mary Ann wants it to do within certain bumpers, but leaves the latitude that Kevin is asking for. Am I looking at that correctly, Johnny?
Yes.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Johnny, I know you said you were going to get in trouble, so I hope I'm not going to get you in more trouble. Why? It sounds like it sounds like you don't think we should sell them. I guess I haven't heard anyone else articulate a why not to sell them. Why is your first opinion not to sell them?
Gavin, it goes back to we buy green energy. And in my personal opinion, this is only my personal opinion, if we buy green energy, then we buy green energy. We don't buy a light green to substitute for the dark green. But I do see the benefits to it if it's used in the appropriate way and putting back into the system or buying more solar to where we can produce in town. But to do other things outside of the electric, I think it's a bad deal. So, and I was only joking about getting in trouble.
Okay.
Were you? That's a good answer. So I think actually the decision on the table is really about, do we want to give Josue the leeway to make a deal? So anyway, so I guess I'll make a motion to just say, like, do we want to? All right, go ahead, John Hempfling. Come on up. Okay. I mean, all right, yeah.
So yeah, it seems like there's a couple different things that people seem like they wanted more information on. Specific, so in particular, I guess I wanted to, for the folks at home, explain that basically what's going on here is that by engaging in this arbitrage, your council is slightly enabling other parties to engage in somewhat less green behavior than they would otherwise, slightly basically making the overall economy of America ever so slightly less green. And so that's why they would turn down what is obviously basically just free money. And my sense is that council both wanted more information to understand, like, to what extent that they are negatively affecting the environment, and also to the extent that, for example, Marianne wanted to possibly make a motion to amend to direct the funds towards some specific purpose. Like, council appears unready to do that. It seemed to me like council wanted to move to table, like council wanted more information, but the only person that I don't know, but only obviously the people that voted no or abstained on the motion to table can move to reconsider. So I just wanted to put that out there in case anybody wants to move to table.
All right. Thanks, John. I mean, I think another way to look at this is that there are many companies that are not able to meet their abilities to be green. And that's why RECs are on the market. And so whether that's a good thing or not, that is a reality. I think we have enough information with this council to make a decision about what we want to do with RECs. So go ahead.
Brian, just interrupt. Just for the edification of the listening public, when RECs are put out on the market for someone to buy them, they're not always the bad people, because we want to buy some RECs. So everybody that buys RECs is not these polluters that we allude to. Having RECs available on the market, the fact that they're there is not a bad thing. Yes, if, each one should teach one. So we're one municipality that can teach some other companies or other municipalities, but I don't want us to be left with the opinion that it's bad to put RECs on the market or buy them off the market, because we buy them.
That is an opinion, though. You may not hold that opinion, but it is an opinion. And so I think we should at least have that out there, that is an opinion. And
I totally agree. I mean, this is a decision that's about opinions. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward with my motion that I'm going to move to give our village manager the leeway to take advantage of the recs. So
Are
the rec opportunity.
are you voting on the
With-
resolution? I mean, are you,
Yes, so it's with the, option that, with the requirement that we would be replacing those with green recs. So I guess it is pretty much the resolution, so. Yeah,
So, sorry, I don't know what the appropriate way to do it. I think I'd rather learn more about it. So I don't, if the table thing,
Yeah, you have to move to table.
so move to table. I'm not trying to be difficult. I guess I don't feel like I understand enough. I would have preferred to have had a heads up that there was going to be.
Stop.
that's okay, it's kind of, yeah, so I mean, basically.
Decorum, we'll recognize you,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
but you speak to the chair.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, John. I'm okay. But yeah, I appreciate that. So, so I think it's a second on my motion, if anybody wants to second it.
I second your motion.
Okay. And so then we're gonna discuss. So Mary Ann, did you want to say anything else?
No.
Okay. So let's just call it.
I want to
Yeah,
discuss,
sorry.
someone here needs to explain to me why we're moving forward when Mary Ann presented the motion and I seconded to table it.
Because the vote was 2-2, and when there's a 2-2
Yeah, we voted.
vote,
Right.
when it's
And
an
so-
aye on that,
And so he abstained.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right.
Now I'm saying,
But just
I'd
to
like to-
clarify from over at this end of the table, Marianne, it seemed as if you wanted to make a motion that those recs go, if the purchase from the sale of the recs go in a particular direction. Is that a motion that you want to make before the vote is?
okay, I will make a motion that, that included in this resolution is the requirement that any monies gained from this sale and purchase go toward producing a locally renewable energy.
Are we gonna second that? I'll second that. Okay, so then can we call?
Hold on.
Trust y'all if you think
Yeah,
that's
I'm getting there.
I don't know what the bar of the expectation.
All right, so we're gonna vote on,
the amendment.
yeah, John, I think we're done with that. Yeah,
But three people.
sit
have-
down, please. Okay,
So you're voting on Marianne's amendment. only.
okay. All right, so we're gonna do a call on the amendment.
Yes.
Roll call.
Stokes,
Yes.
Brown,
This is just Mary Ann's amendment.
correct, just the amendment.
Just the amendment, yes.
DeVore Leonard,
So I'm voting to put the amendment on the motion and then we'll vote on the motion?
Yes.
Yeah,
no,
that
the
seems
vote
really
is,
weird.
so Marianne said, I'm only going to vote yes if you put this specific language in. So she moves to insert that specific language into the resolution. If the motion passes, then when you vote on this resolution, it is the amended resolution that you are then voting on.
Okay, yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Stokes,
Yes.
Housh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm willing to, John, hear your comment.
Yeah, it's just that, it, basically, Kevin can, I believe, move to reconsider, especially now that the motion's been amended. I guess actually, now that the motion's been amended, anyone can move to table. So just say that is in order, even though the motion was defeated before.
Okay. I mean, I'm honestly not sure that this is the most dramatic decision that we've ever made as a
That's
council.
not, I mean,
So, I mean,
that's not the issue.
I don't know, like, I don't even understand where we're at. Can we just vote? Like,
And if I may add something, Brian, I don't don't want to bring conflict to council. It is my job to bring opportunities to council. As a good Antiochian, as you know, just as good as any other Antiochian, I suppose, I have strong opinions about a lot of business that come to council, and I try to keep it professional on my end and present the opportunities as they are. So this is another way of me saying I'm doing my job.
And John, if there was any offense from me raising my voice, please forgive me.
I feel bad. I did not need to break the quorum.
Yeah, I do believe in the quorum.
You did.
I'm actually neutral on the question itself. Emotional about.
Rebecca, you wanted to make a comment?
I guess so.
Yeah, you got to come up to the mic.
I didn't expect to talk on Robert's rules, but I was a parliamentarian in the Future Farmers of America, so I'm remembering this. And I appreciate, Gavin, you're approaching this very deliberately. So I do believe that if, Gavin, you wish more time, it would be within Robert's Rules of Order for you to move for either Kevin or Brian to second a table. And then if it had a majority, you could then table this. That wouldn't then force a vote where some people are kind of uncertain. That's all I wanted to add.
Thanks, Rebecca. All right. I mean, again, I've got to say, to me, this is about like giving our village manager an opportunity with qualifications, but go ahead, Gavin.
So I'll just say the balance of like how much should we know about things before we decide is just complex. So when I said I would like to table, it was based before Marianne said anything. And I felt like, hey, I wasn't sure that I was getting enough information, but if there's a good group of people who feel like they've paid attention to it enough to have an opinion about it, I'm okay with it. What I'm hoping is that going forward, as I'm on council, when there are issues that come up that are going to have complexity, that someone will say, hey, you're going to need to do more homework on this, or here's some of the context and background. So asking everyone here to please alert me when those things happen so that I feel more prepared. So all that said, I think my general opinion is that I don't really care about what it looks like. I would like us to do renewable energy. I think if we do renewable energy, then we'll be doing right by the planet. I think how it looks, let me take that back a little bit, how it looks has some impact. But what I really want to do is actually improve the planet.
Right. It's a good comment. And I mean, this is, to your point, been something that we've discussed for months. We've done like rec deals before. So, okay. Marianne, Carmen, anything else?
Well, so the only thing that we voted on just now is the proposed amendment.
Yes.
Not whether or not any recs can move around.
Yeah, I'm actually like.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
I'm waiting to do that vote, but yeah, so once do you want to say anything else about it or?
You're waiting to do that vote. I think we should table. I move that we table that vote.
On the resolution as a whole.
So I think we still have to vote on the resolution, right? I mean, that there's a motion like now, I mean.
That's right. You can't table the vote on the amendments. That has to move forward.
Right.
If it's moved and seconded, it has to move forward, and then it's a yea or nay.
Right. So now we're ready to vote. We're now ready to vote on the resolution, is my understanding, right?
You've had a motion to table. Once the language of the resolution is changed, it is different. So now you've got a motion on the floor that has not been seconded to table the amended resolution, which is.
Because it's been changed.
It's been changed. So under Robert's rules, you could table it, bring it back for a second reading, and at that second reading, it'll have that.
Well, the last motion we had was not to table, but was to amend.
Haven't just made a motion to table.
Well, it was a question. It was Carmen questioned that motion. So you're saying we should not vote on the current motion.
No, what she's saying is because the resolution itself has been amended, Carmen is in order in saying, I would like to make another motion to table
Okay.
the entire resolution and bring it back in its new form for further scrutiny
Okay.
and possible painful discussion, I might add. So do we have a motion?
You're not-
on the-
Strike that from the record. All right. Do you want to make the motion?
I think I did.
Okay. I mean, I'm not clear. I thought that was a question about the motion. So.
Well, I did ask a question
But
and then I moved
But
to table.
I will second that motion.
Okay.
All right. And so
Okay.
now we'll discuss
No, let's
tabling.
please, let's just do please, can we just roll call that?
No, I mean,
Roll call on, motion to table cuts off discussion. That's what tabling does. It cuts off discussion. I'm the former parliamentarian for a DECA chapter. So, yes,
Okay.
when you have a motion to table, it's cut off the discussion and bring it back. You vote on the motion to table.
So that being the case, Brown,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Delore Leonard,
Honestly, this is a weird process. I don't understand. I'd like to know why. Anyway, if I have to say something, yes, sure.
Stokes.
No, that's more.
no.
The motion to table passes.
Okay.
And we've got one more.
It's all good. No harm, no foul.
What's our one more?
Yes, Brian, I'm sorry, I meant to put this on the agenda earlier. As council knows, we've been trying to negotiate this day and storm rerouting project that's stalled for a couple months due to supply issues, bedrock being found at the path of the storm system. So we have a final negotiated agreement with Fillmore Construction in an effort to not delay this project any further from which what has already been delayed. We're bringing this resolution to council today. And I'm happy to go through the details. I think that it is given the labor market, the supply chain issues, this is still a very, very good contract that we've negotiated. So,
Okay, well, let's make a motion for the resolution.
So I'll read you in the title. This is approving a contract with Fillmore Construction LLC for sewer rerouting on Dayton Street. Steve.
Can I get a motion?
So moved, but was there, what was the number?
Yes.
For the resolution?
2022-33.
33, okay.
And you should.
Move.
From you,
I didn't have any printed copies.
Hmm?
They
do you
were-
have an extra copy?
I don't know. Does everybody have it?
You have one? Oh, no, you can share. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll second if there wasn't a second.
I've got Stokes McQueen. So yes.
Okay.
Josue?
Okay, I'm going to read some of these whereases because we've set them up to provide a timeline and some of the details of the contract. So whereas council originally authorized on October 8th of 2021, resolution 2021-51, an amount to not exceed a total cost of $522,697, and with the village's contribution not to exceed $83,632. Later, whereas council authorized on February 22nd of 2022 via resolution 2022-12, a change order and the amount not to exceed a total of $547,843.35, with the village's contribution not to exceed $108,778.35. And whereas the original bid holder Ranger Construction LLC requested a change order that the Public Works Department deem excessive to deal with the bedrock conditions requiring this change in contractors. And whereas Fillmore Construction LLC can complete the work necessary for the storm reroute on Dayton Street for an additional $59,408.40. And whereas funds for this addition will require a supplemental appropriation. Therefore, Council for the Village of Yellow Springs does hereby resolve that Section 1, Village Council hereby authorizes the village manager to execute, contract, and submit a purchase order to Fillmore Construction LLC to complete construction work for the North Winter Railroad Storm Improvements GREYSP 1910 project in the village at a contract award not to exceed a total cost of $575,765.50, with the village's contribution not to exceed $168,186.75. What I would add to this is that you see that our village's contribution is capped at $168,000. So that constitutes about 30% of the overall project. So if you were thinking of this as a matching grant, which this grant award did require a match, it is still a very good matching contribution to be awarded. Essentially, the grant covers 70% of the work. We're pitching in 30% of the work. So from a numbers perspective, the fact that we can get this project resolved after 60 years of issues along Dayton Street, and we're doing it with 70% of the money coming from grant dollars, it's still a good project. So that's in just the big numbers. I know they could seem scary, but I wanted to highlight that the village is only contributing 30% to the overall project.
So talk about the budget.
Yeah, the budget, we have in our budget as previously approved by council, we had $108,778 already budgeted for this project. So we're talking about a difference of the $59,408. I've met with Johnny and Matt about this. It currently does not exist in its entirety in our budget. We can look to do additional cost saving measures, but very likely we're going to need a supplemental to our budget to be able to complete this project.
So Matt, did you have some concern about that? Okay. All right.
I'm happy to go through some of the negotiations to the 575 figure. That's the actual, that will be the total contract amount. There are things that we have negotiated in that contract that that Fillmore would not be paid for that entirety because we had to pay Ranger Earthwork for some of the work that they already did. We had to pay them for all the supplies, the materials. So the contract amount says 575, but it's minus the payments that we've made to Ranger Earthwork and a few other credits that we're getting through Fillmore.
So we're talking about another 130,000 or so.
For the village, the total cash outflow is not going to exceed $168,186. That is our maximum or limit or upper limit on what we're going to spend on the entire Dayton Storm project.
Questions, Marianne?
So the issue arose, as I understand it, that bedrock was higher in that area than apparently we knew, and apparently the Ranger company knew. And then when they found that out, that would have added the additional expense that now we're seeing in this contract. And so I guess I'm just going to assume that we've done our due diligence to make sure that this is the best deal.
Yes, part of the work that we are paying Ranger for is the pilot holes and drilling that they did for the bedrock, and we had that open, and so Fillmore knows underneath it. Now, the price difference when the bids came in, Ranger was the lowest bid. And because this is a project with OPWC, we tend to go with the lowest bidder. What Ranger accounted for less bedrock than the other two bidders above them. So when we work with Fillmore's original bid contemplated the bedrock that's there. So it was higher price and he was outbid or outwon because of he came in at a higher, Fillmore came in at a higher price. Now Fillmore, because they're regional, they know the area well and so could account for the additional bedrock and hence a higher bid, but they didn't get it initially because of procurement procedures that you go for the lowest bid. So so that's a short response to Mary Ann's point about does Fillmore know the bedrock that exists there? Yes.
Okay.
We do, and we do not anticipate another change order on this. Johnny, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this or if I missed anything.
No, you covered it pretty good. I do know that you said that they didn't account for bedrock, a little bit of it. They actually told me that they didn't bid for any bedrock. They bid for dirt only. That was through Ranger. So when we went to second place and then we went to third place, Mary Ann, the change order for Ranger to do the work, they had to actually rent the machines and all that to do it. It was more than the project is now. There would have been double the project. And then when Fillmore was asked, they have the equipment to be able to do the work that is proposed to them. Plus, they've done work all over the area, like Osway said, so they know the area pretty well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? John? Just kidding. All right, let's go ahead and call the roll.
You can have a voice vote if you would like.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and call the full roll.
you don't call
So,
it?
yeah,
All right.
I would like to.
McQueen,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Stokes,
Yes.
DeBoer Leonard,
Yes.
Tausch.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you all, and thanks for bearing with us. It's been a long road on this one.
Yikes. Okay, so we're done with legislation. No more surprises. All right, so citizen concerns. This is the time on the agenda where we'll accept any comments up to 3 minutes that are not agenda items. So do we have any citizen concerns? All right. Then we are going to move into, well, we do have a special report. Matt Dillon. All right.
All right.
First quarter financials.
First quarter. All right. So we'll be reporting through March 31st of this year. I did provide a summary page here that'll begin on page 48 of your guys' council packet. Just jumping through the summary sheet. These are excerpts from our various formatted reports that was submitted within the packet. The first item being the statement of cash from revenue and expense. Being Q1, we started the beginning of the year with $10,097,602. We've taken in revenue of $4,521,677 and also have net expenses of just around that amount of $4.659 million. And that leaves also with encumbrances for the year of $5 million, leaving an end balance unencumbered of $4,865,000. So I want to just take a real quick pause and explain a little bit about that. So this is not while the report says statement of cash, this is more of a statement of unobligated funds as opposed to actual cash flow. We typically carry a couple millions of dollars, but the revenue comes in rather consistently throughout the year, and the expenses can come in when the bills come in. So for example, in the beginning of the year, we authorized around $1.3 million in transfers to other funds. So on January 1st, those transfers happened. And so those represented on day one, $1.3 million in transfers and expenses right away. So the expenses are skewing quite high, but they are actually right right on where we want them to be. And taking out those transfers, we're actually under 25% for the year at a point of 25%. So we're just 1 quarter through the year and we're less than 25% for all funds.
So Matt, let's just stop on there because I saw that the average was like in the 60s or whatever. So can you just be a little bit clearer about why we're like good with that?
I mean, more specific about the average, Brian. I'm on the summary
I don't
sheet
know.
right now.
When I looked at the summaries, it was saying that like expense wise, we were like 60 something percent.
Yes, that was my comment regarding encumbrances, Brian. At the beginning of the year, we authorized $1.3 million in transfers as well as encumbered funds for the completion of the year. So one example is health insurance. We have a good idea of how much health insurance will be for the year, so we encumber those funds through a PO. So those funds are not out the door, but they are encumbered in that they are obligated. So I believe the summary sheet you're referring to there, that's page 50 of the council packet. The column that you would refer to as expense is actually titled percent expensed. So that for the general fund, you'll see that that's 45.3%. Subtracting out approximately $1.3 million in transfers, which were authorized as part of the budget, we are now at 22.82% at 1 quarter of the year through. And at an all funds level, subtracting out those transfers, we would be at 21.63%.
Okay.
That speaks to the revenue and the, well, you jumped to the expenses. So in regards to the revenue, we're also performing rather well. We have received 1/2 of the year's property taxes. So in taking those out, being that we've only been through 1 quarter of the year, we are also skewing rather high on the general fund revenue. But once again, we've had 1/2 year of property taxes put in at $600,000. So if you imagine that $300,000 would be a quarterly amount, again, we are over 25% of revenue collected in the general fund. Other revenues are performing rather well. These revenues do include transfers from the general fund, which are counted as a revenue in our accounting software. But we are performing, I said, above 25% of revenue collected for the general fund, the street maintenance fund, as well as all our enterprise funds. The last 2 reports are a bank report. This speaks to the number of banks that we currently have activity with. We do our banking, the majority of it through West Banco, and our general accounts as well as our payroll account are shown here. And we also have investment accounts with Raymond James, as well as some administrative accounts for Mayor's Court and our flex spending.
So I feel like this accounting looks a little bit different. Can you explain why we're below? Are we now like negatively earning or?
No. Could you
Okay.
help me out, Brian?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, I think I'm looking at the same accounting as you.
Our cash is lower from the beginning of the year to currently at this point in the quarter.
Mhm.
We've authorized several big ticket expenses, as well as we tend to pay for a year of expenses at a time. And in some cases, there have been several big ticket items, as well as these transfers from the general fund. So.
Okay, so that's mostly what this is about, is the transfers to the investment fund, or?
No, right. These, I think what you're speaking to is a difference in total from the beginning of the year to currently.
Mhm.
That is a net reduction of cash of approximately and I don't have the math and exactly what the deficit is on cash, but this is a snapshot. It's a point in time of where the expenses were put out there. We are trending well on revenue, and we're doing well on expenses as well. So council authorized a budget which exceeded our budgeted revenue for this year. We budgeted a loss. So you will see a drop in cash this year.
Okay. And so this doesn't have anything to do with like earnings on our accounts? This is more about like what we're pulling out for investments, or?
This is our activity from our banks from the beginning of the year till now. So it's earnings, it's expenses, it's revenue, it's everything.
Okay.
I will say the Raymond James, I have an update on here that didn't quite make this sheet. The Raymond James investment account earned $1,261 over the course of that period.
Okay.
So yeah, there are going to be more opportunities with the Raymond James investment account, but for now that does include the total earnings for that account for this period of time.
Gotcha. Can we talk about the council budget? I mean, when you get it, I mean, I wondered why the YS Pride was not reflected on this, because I saw that it was up to 513.
Are you referring to the council commission's budget, Brian?
Yes. Because we said that the YS Pride piece was gonna be part of the council budget, and it seems like that's kind of been a hot item. So I just want to make sure we keep that updated.
Can we talk about how that was communicated, the YS Pride item?
Yeah.
Sure. What was there a form submitted to the finance office?
I don't know.
Council commissions and council related items, especially for special events, we have a request process and a form.
So I'm kind of looking to Judy and Josue, because I don't know, like, what our process is supposed to be or whatever. So.
If I may weigh in. Matt and I spoke a little bit about this earlier today. And Matt's expecting this form that has been circulated with council in the past to be filled out for every council request. I consider this particular request that was approved at the last meeting different than that the traditional commission request forms, because it had a mix of things wrapped up into one item. Council approved $1,650 for Pride related activities, and the payments were going to different activities. So there's a $300 amount for banners, $200 for the community event, and the rest was going to rental fees and public safety expenses here at the John Bryan Center. So I think that particular request doesn't follow the form that a commission would typically follow, because this particular request is a bit more complex, and it's an event where the village government is a sponsor, the council is a sponsor. So I think the process for this particular thing was different. I also took it upon myself to work with Amy Wansley and the Pride Committee to say, hey, the $300 were approved, that $200 approved, so we just need to get it in the queue to purchase orders and figure out. So I'll take responsibility for that $1,650 not being reflected in that sheet that you're looking at, Brian, which is the council commission budget, because I think that that encumbrance process needed to be broken up a bit. So I'll take ownership of that. That's going to be reflected in the next council budget. Now, it's also a timing issue. I think that if we had a little more time to prep the commission's report, and I had gotten the reports earlier, we would have made the change reflective. So since that meeting, we spoke and we were making a couple adjustments to the council commission's report that you see there. For example, a change, you'll see the glass farm riprap area clearing expenses listed under commission's budget. And that's something that we need to reallocate to the general fund administration department, because through the budgeting process, we allocated $5,000 in the professional services budget under the administration budget to do maintenance for Glass Farm. So that's an example of things that we need to adjust in our reports as we have an opportunity to review them and say, okay, do these reflect the operations of the government and the allocations that we have? So that report's going to be adjusted, and we'll present an updated copy at the next meeting.
Okay. So I think, I mean, just to kind of
But
like,
if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think your overall question was clarity on process and procedures. And I think that's been an issue. That was an issue in a previous legislation that you considered. I think it has been an issue in the past with facilitating council's requests through council clerk and the finance director. And I think there are some management challenges in there that I'm looking to address.
okay. Yeah, and I think I'll just follow up on what Josue said, not to surprise anyone, but, you know, part of this executive session that we're going to have, and Gavin, sorry to make your first meeting kind of, you know, pulling your hair out, but, you know, we've got some like issues around like auditing, and I am actually, Matt, looking to you to like help us with that. I don't feel like we have a very good like communication channel, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, you know, I'm a little bit confused about when I don't see like things that we talk about like reflected. And then also, you know, when I get pulled in for 2 hours to talk with auditors about, you know, things that I also don't understand. So we have to figure out how to communicate better. So I'm just going to say that, yes.
I believe that I heard village manager taking responsibility for that particular line item not being present on match report, and also the date. So I just wanted to make sure that that was something that wasn't necessarily a council thing.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So, but I mean, we as a council need to understand much better about how we engage with finances.
That's not lost on me. I just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to make sure that we understand that that's why it's not there.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And Brian, these forms I did not create. They were in place before my taking over the position.
I mean, I'm already
It's just a matter
realizing
of,
like I was gonna like engage you a little bit about like the income tax thing as well, but I understand that you came into some things that have been challenging. So yeah.
Ryan, do you want to talk specifically about what you mean?
I mean, I was very confused about why we were out of compliance with our income tax when you like presented about that like a couple months ago. And so anyway, so I mean, I think, you know, you've come into some things that, you know, have needed to be addressed. This credit card policy is a huge one that I don't understand like how we could have gone like 4 years without, yeah.
I think that this is discussion that would be better held in executive session. Because what's happening, in my opinion, is that there might be people who this kind of discussion will cause speculation. And that's what I'm concerned about. So I think that, in my opinion, it might be best if this is something that's reserved for executive session.
Brianne can correct me, but I don't think this is executive session material. I think it's about just, we want to make sure that we address some of these issues. And so,
Brian, I'd be happy to address those issues. I'm certainly wanting to.
I am curious about like, you know, what happened with the income tax thing. So if we can get more
I'm not
clarity.
sure. Could you be more specific, Brian?
Can I just?
Interject. I think it's difficult for some of the members of council who may not have context for the conversation. So while it's appropriate that it be discussed, I think maybe there would be another venue, like a work session or something where people can be prepped and ready for the conversation, because I do see some confusion and.
We have a retreat coming up.
Yeah, we have a work session, so I think these kind of things would be more appropriate there.
I would like to say a couple things. So,
Yeah.
I would like to speak to whatever these things that you're mentioning. You're alluding to a couple things which I'm willing to discuss in the right setting, but this seems, I feel like I'm then put into a defensive spot where I'm not able to speak freely on the issues at hand. So I'd be happy to do that, but you're alluding to an income tax issue that I was out of compliance. That's not exactly correct. We can talk about what that issue was. We can talk about other issues if you'd like, Brian. But what we're discussing now, and we had earlier, is about me having a fair chance to check with checks and balances. I can't do my job unless I have purchases requested on time. I have to have documentation. The meeting that you're referring to that I wasn't present at, I was given permission to not be present at. I didn't have a document that was given to me that said there was a purchase commitment made. We've been told that we don't need to be present if we don't have an agenda item. And I was hoping that would have been communicated, that I wasn't there and I wasn't asked to be there. So I only need a piece of paper and I will make the commitment of the funds, but it's about being transparent on where the request is coming from and me being able to document that. I'm trying to do my job.
Cool. That's a great response. I will say, keep in mind that we are voting on approving these financials. So I will defend the fact that I'm asking these questions in like making my decision about approving those financials, because I think that is my obligation as an elected official. So, okay. So yeah, I guess we'll call a motion to approve those financials.
So you're making a motion to approve the first quarter financials?
I am.
Second.
All those in favor?
Let's do a full roll call.
All right. McQueen?
Would you come back to me, please?
Yes. Stokes? Brown?
Yes.
Boardman?
Yes.
McQueen?
I'm sorry, this is getting sort of testy here. So I'm looking at where are we on the special report? So approving is something we're supposed to be doing now. Okay, yes, I approve.
And I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. I'm looking to a further discussion. All right, let's go into old business. And all right, Lawson Place.
All right, thank you, Brian. This is a follow-up item from the presentation I made about investing in both Lawson Place as a physical space and Lawson Place as a community, and investing in building capacity of the existing tenant and future tenants to take greater role in the future of Lawson Place as a community and find a way to have cooperative ownership of the facility to ensure its near future success and long-term success. I think that cooperative ownership models are a good way of bringing folks from lower economic conditions to home ownership and managing their future. I think it's a good housing model, particularly in a very constrained housing market such as Yellow Springs. And I think council has been very supportive of the overall initiative. I think what's at question is how much can we invest in such a project.
And just as a reminder, the request was made that several council members get involved, gather information, assure a robust interest and involvement on the part of the residents. That was another piece.
And that has not happened, right?
We did pull the residents. We pulled the residents, and out of the, there's two that are opposed. The others are strong maybes or strong maybes. And we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to meet with the residents. We will be joined by Able Law, a representative of Able Law, to talk about cooperative models. It's a colleague of Ellis Jacob. Ellis Jacobs facilitated the contact, so it will be someone from the firm.
And Carmen, I heard you, so you're going to be at that meeting?
Yes.
And
Marianne? Okay, great. Okay,
folks want to bring it back in that case.
I think so.
Pardon?
We don't have anything to discuss until after the meeting, right? Okay.
I don't.
All right, good.
There's a hand for.
Huh?
Right there, hand.
Oh, yeah, Mitzi, please. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
My name's Mitzi Miller, and I've been here 30 years living in town. I'd just like to say that I support the village manager's request for $30,000 being allocated for the Lawson Place project from the Affordable Housing Fund. It would be nice to see other organizations, village projects, builders, or developers benefit from this fund. I believe Home Inc. is the only organization to date that has benefited from this fund. They also benefit from waivers on zoning, infrastructure costs, land being given to them from the village, and also benefiting from the Affordable Housing Fund in the past. As a community member, I'm asking council to consider the village manager's request and share the wealth. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitzi. And I do want to clarify, no one has benefited from the Affordable Housing Fund yet. So that 30,000 was the first amount that we allocated to that fund.
Okay.
So
I'd also like to add, that all benefit to affordable housing goes to the residents who live in the affordable housing projects, whether it's rental or home ownership. None of the money goes to administrators of any organization.
Yeah, and I think this is what Matt's coming up to. I would like to make the distinction between what is the Affordable Housing Fund that was created this year that's directly linked to the transient guest lodging fees. So there's a fee, affordable housing mitigation fee that's specifically tied to the affordable housing fund as a special revenue fund. This was something that we've been trying to resolve for a couple of years now, dedicating a revenue stream for affordable housing investments. When the fund was initially established, it did not meet the state standards to have dedicated revenue streams separate from the general fund, so it could not be established. But when we updated transient guest lodgings, the changes in the law that established a affordable housing mitigation fee could be directed directly to the affordable housing fee. So to Brian Hausch's point that this is a new fund that has been established, there is a new fund that the funds from the transient guest lodging go into, and that fund exists on its own. The $30,000 allocation that we're talking about now exists in the general fund that was appropriated through the budgeting process at the end of 2021 to establish the 2022 budget. So I'm not weighing in on the opinions. I'm just clarifying that there's an affordable housing allocation made in the general fund, and there's an affordable housing fund that's a special revenue fund that was created through the transient guest lodging legislation that was passed last year as a way to fund that. Yeah. So
yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Matt, did you want to add anything?
That was exactly right.
Okay, Brianne.
And the only other point I would make is that there's a very low amount being received from the TGL split.
Yeah, what is that, Matt? Approximately?
Yeah. It's $1,500 per, and I believe we're up to $9,500.
That's not bad.
I wouldn't say it's little. It's given
Yeah.
the first year, almost, yeah, that's 9,500, I think.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to quantify the amount.
Cool. Okay, so, but just to clarify, I think you're going to bring that request back after that meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're good. Okay. So then we are going to talk about board and commission assignments, and we could shift this to the retreat, but I would like to emphasize that I think, and even looking at Judy, I appreciated the draft you put together. I really think our retreat needs to be about priorities around goals and not about getting into the rabbit hole with boards and commissions or like talking about social media or whatever. So I know Gavin and I talked a little bit. Gavin seemed interested, I think, in transitioning into Lisa roles, but I don't know, Gavin, like, you can speak for yourself.
Sure. I think I said I'm primarily interested in being a good team player here. So I could make a case for, I have interest in, all of the commissions. So I don't have a strong opinion about it. So I'm happy to go with what feels equitable with my colleagues.
Okay, sweet. So, Carmen, I think first question is for you in terms of planning commission. Do you want to take on like main liaison? I mean, I feel like you and Gavin, would still be a good pair there. So I don't know.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think that if Gavin is comfortable, I don't want to say just stepping into Lisa's position,
Yeah.
then that's,
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not trepidatious about that.
All right, cool. And then I also think Gavin's a clear, partner with you in terms of social justice. And so we'll find someone else for Kevin.
Yeah.
But I guess I also just think in terms of public arts and commission and also HRC that, it makes sense to me that you guys kind of parse those out. So is that cool?
I would agree with that.
All right, cool.
We got to parse some stuff out.
Okay. Yep.
Can we do it later?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So then how about we come back to the next, council meeting and we just say here's the specific roles, but why don't you guys talk about that? And cool. Mary Ann, any other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, good. All right. So then I think that was easy. And let's talk about utility roundup.
Yeah.
We need to spend more money.
Yes, that is the essence of what I'm coming to tell you tonight.
Nice.
The revenues are outpacing the subsidies that we're giving out for utility roundup almost 3-1. So in my report, I highlighted that for 2021, the program brought in $11,397 and paid out $3,724. So almost 3-1. Reasoning for that, I'll get to the essence of it, is there's two limiting factors to what's limiting the expenses, and one could add a third one, but the two limiting factors are the timing that subsidies are provided once every 12 months, and the subsidy amount is limited to $200. Within that $200 limitation, the individual or the customer has to be at risk of being shut off. They have to have a disconnect notice, a threat. The third limiting factor we're at that, I don't know how much weight you want to give this is that the pool of the customers is relatively small, and they tend to be year to year same customer, if you will. So for council to consider, I know, Kevin, this was sort of your question. What are the levers that we need to pull to improve the utilization of the program in the two direct levers to pull would be the amount, probably starting with the amount and the time, the 12-month period. The other thing that council could consider would be the conditions of what is eligible. Does it have to be disconnect notice? The program was designed in that way that, hey, we don't want to disconnect people. And so if they're facing a disconnect order, they can apply for this program. That would be another lever that could be considered. What I would, if you're looking for a recommendation for me, would probably be on the amount, because that's the tangible lever that can be pulled and pulled right away. That could say, hey, let's bump this up from 200 to whatever deemed council deems necessary. So
I held up 5 fingers.
okay.
Well, I was just thinking like double.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I have two suggestions, and not to make a decision tonight, but one is to actually increase the pot by doing an opt-out rather than opt-in. I mean, we only have 22% of our customers opt into this. And like, what is it, like maybe $12 a year?
Up to.
Is that about right?
Because
The
it's a rounding.
cost to be in it. So if we had an opt-out where people go, no, I don't know, I want my $12, we could have, instead of, what do we have, 17,000? We could have 3 or 4 times that. So that's one thing I'd like for us to think about. The other is, I'd like for us to think about the qualifications. I mean, we could do something where if you're at a certain income level per family, you know, you could get a certain subsidy on, if we had a bigger amount in there, well, say $100,000, maybe, we maybe could do something where very low income people could have a subsidy just automatically. So as I said, I'm not talking about making a decision, but I think it's worth thinking a little bigger with this.
Carmen? Sorry.
So the opt-out ideas, I kind of echo your sentiment when it comes to that. The second, then there's 2 other pieces. So instead of every 12 months, every 6, and then increasing the amount. Because with my work for the Feminist Health Fund, there was a woman who's a longtime member of the community who had a utility bill at $1,400 that she couldn't pay. And even with the utility roundup, that wasn't going to do anything. And it had to do with the plumbing and the way that the water meter was in the house. And there were a lot of things that had to do with her home that, you know, didn't make it conducive for the guys to get in there and check the meters and all kinds of other stuff. But she's not the only one. So increase the amount from 200 to something that's going to touch the bill, and every 6 months, and the option to opt out.
Kevin?
Well, thank you, Brian. Well, before I go on, do we want to check, it looks like Florence wants to.
Yes, yeah, and I'll give you context. Florence and I and the team have discussed different program changes. With Matt, we discussed the possibility of making energy efficient improvements to reduce the overall cost of heating or cooling a home. The challenge we saw there is that the program, the donors have specifically donated to offset utility bills. So to use it, repurpose the money to do something else will be improper given that. And I've also asked Florence to look into programs such as build, you know, what else could we do with the residents to help create a more sustainable energy utilization program. So that's where.
All right, Florence,
let me, all right, Florence, I think you should be able to unmute.
Thank you, Josue. I would just like to add to what Josue said, that there are means of funds that our people in the zip code of 45387 have not taken the opportunity to follow through with. the Miami Valley CAP program has paid out $89,000 to our zip code, whereas from the Village of Yellow Springs and the Yellow Springs Community Foundation has paid out almost $70,000. That's the Village of Yellow Springs funds outside of the Roundup program. So there needs to be a revamp of the program and the issuance of funds. Every year is too long a period, and the amount is too small of an amount because of the high price of utilities. So yes, we can make the program much better with these changes that Josue is speaking about.
All right, thanks, Florence. Kevin?
Thank you, Florence. So I was part of the team that revamped the revamp of the utility roundup program. And you've heard our former colleague Lisa Krieger talk about utility roundup 2.0. And that was where we were going to look at building efficiency or home efficiency changes. And to Josue's point, that certainly needs to be funded by some other means other than these funds. So when we started out, and I agree in principle with all of the suggestions I've heard. When we started out, our concern was, would we have enough money in the fund to help people? So that's part of what went into at least the dollar amount being what it is and the duration of eligibility being what it is. What we have done along the way is, I think the utility folks down in the office have done a great job where every new account, utility account that gets established, the form that new residents have to fill out has a place on that form where you're being asked and encouraged to sign up for the utility roundup program. Now we could do the math and figure things out. Yes, we probably can do some things to get more money in, and certainly we ought to be giving out more money than what we're giving. But to do that, we could do the math to get the actual figure of the average contribution, because I would submit it is more than $1. I know exactly how Roundup works, but what we've also asked people to do is to make a monthly contribution. I round up and also donate an additional dollar amount on each of my monthly bills. And so that is something that folks can do. There's been other cash donations. Just folks have shown up, dropped checks under the window downstairs. So it's not just the nickels and dimes that are coming into the program. And again, all of that has contributed to the amount that we do have. There was a lot of discussion at the time about whether we would opt in or opt out. I can't recall all of the data points, but one should imagine that there could be some pushback, to an opt-out program. But that is why we left it as opt-in. Every single resident of the village, or I don't even want to say every single customer, every single utility customer received in their paper bills information about the utility roundup program. So all of that to say is, most of our efforts in the first couple of years was focusing on getting money into the program as opposed to getting money out. Everybody deserves a cost of living increase or whatever your rationale is. So I think we do need to look at increasing the figure. And again, in general, and I'll wrap up with this, I agree in principle with everything I've heard, but I think the switching the program from opt-in to opt-out, actually I was in favor originally. With opt-out, because again, I just want to get as many people signed up as possible. But we instead took more, of an affirmative approach and reaching out to every single utility customer and giving them the option. So by definition, one could say at that point in time, everyone who chose not to opt in, by definition, opted out. And so I would consider how a typical individual who does whatever they do with their utilities, how many of those folks would be perhaps not as agreeable as we
We will be back and running. So we'll just do
So
that.
we need an ordinance to amend the utility roundup program. So how about we bring the ordinance to amend the utility roundup program to the next meeting? Meanwhile, Brianne can check as to whether an opt-out is an illegal takings in some fashion, because that was the quandary.
If we could, Judy, have in the packet, some, things like the form that's used downstairs and any other full descriptions of the program so that everyone is up to speed.
So a slightly different thought. Are we ready to say twice as much in 6 months now? I mean, it's been on our agenda twice. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna make a motion that I think we should adjust the program to do every 6 months and raise the limit to 400. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Judy, let's do a roll call.
Stokes.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
DeBoer Leonard.
Yes.
Tausch.
Yes. Okay. All right. Council retreat. All right. So I guess I've said a couple times in the past, we have spent an inordinate amount of time in council retreats talking about commissions and boards. And I don't think that's where we're at. I think where we're at is to start with our priorities, and we just go down the line, and that's vis-a-vis our goals. And then we bring in our team who has had a retreat, and I want to hear what their priorities are, and we align those. And I think we, move away from, some of the things that have been distracting. So that's kind of my general thought around how the retreat's going to go. Any comments? Okay. So, Judy.
Gavin had some questions about where do things currently stand? So maybe we can bounce the goals document to sort of update that. I know that you've done that in the past.
That's a good idea. I will do that. So I've usually done a green, yellow, red light kind of thing. And so I'll do that, which will also allow us to get feedback if I'm missing something. So, yep. Okay. We'll do that. Cool. All right. That was easy. Yep. All right. Manager's report, I believe.
We're there already?
See? Yeah, that's right, man. And remember, Johnny said you don't get unlimited time, so.
Big highlight for today, you guys approved the project with Fillmore. So we're gonna get back into the trench, if you will, with those guys and try to get this program up and running by September. The timing was a point of negotiation with the team because we're going to have Dayton Street and several other parts open up during the busiest. If the program continued through the summer, we would have the streets and economy disrupted because of the hold and all the construction work. So we want to push it out as far as we could for the year, but early enough that we actually get the project done this year. So September is sort of that sweet spot where we're working towards. So that project is we're looking to kick it off in September. Other projects we have in the work, the sidewalk project was the Safe Routes to School project was awarded this past week, or the bidder was selected. We're working through negotiations to get that contract signed, and that's on target to commence work in June. So that's all that sidewalk limestone from Bill Duncan Park all the way down to Walnut. We're gonna have that sidewalk project underway. I expect folks to have feelings about it and things being a bit disrupted, but the sidewalk is a key element to our active transportation infrastructure, the safety of our children to get to and from school. And we're also doing it in a time where school's not in session and we disrupt the traffic and public movement as much as possible. Pool is underway. We've had the pump rebuild that went in place last week, so we're ready to fill that pool with water and get it going. So we're meeting all those targets.
How much did that cost?
Matt, do you have that figure, or Johnny, you have that figure? I want to say it was right around the estimate of 12,000. Oh, I realized that we lost audio here because we switched speakers here. So Johnny, I think I can hear you on my tiny computer here.
I lost you guys there for a while. What was the question about 12,000?
How much was the pump, the new pump that we had built this year?
It was right at 12,000, a little under $12,000.
So a little under 12,000. We did receive some contributions. Cresco donated $2,500 towards the pump. So that was very nice of Cresco to come through on that project. That's the pool. Cresco, I just mentioned Cresco. We did finalize the purchase agreement with Cresco, and that's going through. We're scheduling the sale of the closing. We're scheduling the closing of that property in maybe 30 days. We'll be closed. So yeah, that's moving along.
So just as a side note with Cresco, so do we track their donations, Matt?
We've all included the donor history.
Okay. Because ultimately, maybe, I don't know if you do know, there's supposed to be kind of a profit sharing thing with them. So, yeah, so it'd be good to track that.
Yeah,
we track, every donation is tracked by the recipient.
Okay.
Yeah. We also have a dedicated contact with Cresco, Matt Ryan. He's been really good to work with, and so I think now that we have that steady relationship, when we build that relationship, I think we're in a better position to ask for more money or ask where's our money in that case if they already made the commitment. So that's going. That's moving along, and there's a ton of infrastructure updates in the report. I'm happy to take questions on the report. Otherwise, I'll keep talking.
See? All right. Let's shut him down. Questions for Josue? I'm joking. All right, so one of the things I do want to mention is I do want to get the finance committee going. And so I guess I want to know, Kevin or Gavin, who wants to be my partner in crime for the finance committee? Okay, so it's Gavin. All right. And so we are gonna set that up in a couple weeks.
And the first line of business in the Finance Committee is the last meeting that we had with Brian, where would join us, was that because of the CD market is increasing in interest rates, we move money out of our money market accounts into investments. So we bought a couple CDs that were well priced. In our last meeting, we set $1.5 million as the cash available for longer term investments, and so we moved that. Are we at $1 million or have 1.5 now?
We're at 1.5.
Yeah.
There's another opportunity for that.
Yeah, so we're at 1.5 now. So the first task for the next committee meeting is how much money we're going to set aside for investments in working through the laddering strategy that we're going to have. So right now, I had a brief conversation about cash flow and our burn rate with Matt last week, and so I'll be proposing a $3 million set aside for CD purchases to be expiring over the next 3 years. So no, we've got.
No, that's
that'll be the first thing we'll be looking at. The committee gets back together.
If we can do that. And then I do want to mention, I don't want to limit the scope to investments. And I do want to think about like planning for our budget for next year. So I want that to be on the agenda.
As part of the Finance Committee work.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, just, we did a great job last year, I think, with getting ahead of the budget, but I want to lay some groundwork for that this year.
Okay.
So, Johnny Burns. All right.
Johnny.
What you mentioned at the very beginning, I think it's very important to mention it again. We've been having numerous vandalism around the village with broken glass. We've had wine bottles thrown in the pool 3 times in the last week. And so if people can be vigilant and watching out for things like that. Bill Duncan got vandalized over the weekend, broke the sign, emptied the food pantry, threw it all over the park, dumped out the trash can. One thing's, if it goes to after we fill the pool, if we have this same broken glass situation, that means we got to drain the pool 100%. And that means a delay on getting the pool back up and running.
Although nobody heard any of that.
Yeah, well, I heard that Johnny said there's a lot of vandalism at the pool.
Yeah.
Broken glass.
Yep.
And if there's broken glass at the pool, once the pool is open, then village crew has to drain the pool. So my question is, are there security cameras everywhere up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one, we've got a surveillance policy that I think that there are some exceptions to
in the evenings
in the facilities.
In the evenings. So obviously after there's no children running around in, bathing suits.
So you're proposing that maybe we should have cameras?
In the evening, after the pool closes.
Okay, and
from
Marianne.
From a certain, because that can't happen. We got to drain the pool because somebody, so.
I have strong feelings and opinions about it.
Right, so in the evenings, from the time the pool closes until the time it opens again, that's gonna, if draining the pool every time someone throws a bottle in it, if it keeps happening, so, that, not to mention that it's not cool at all, but the money, it's gonna be a money thing if we keep having to drain the pool and open it back up and let me fill it back up. That's ridiculous.
Okay, well, I don't think we need to discuss it. Let's just
no.
Let's just bring back a proposal.
We're bringing it to your attention as it's something that is happening in our community. We try to be positive about things and not, be. I'm trying to find not too negative a word, but certainly there are individuals that are very careless and inconsiderate of village operations and the assets that are community assets. The pool is one of the more cherished assets in the community. To vandalize the food pantry where people are
and so
relying on those foods,
if people realize that they're being surveilled in the evening.
All right, so I agree with Carmen. Let's bring back a proposal for cameras to be out there. Okay, board and commission reports. Anything that anyone wants to highlight? Marianne?
Yes, the Environmental Commission has been working ever since end of January, reviewing the climate action report that Piper Fernway did. And Rebecca is going to make a short report on
Oh, great.
condensation of that
All right.
in preparation for continuing this goal.
Great.
That's why I'm here.
All right. Thanks for hanging out till the end.
Yes, thank you.
So I just real briefly, Catherine Zimmerman couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to come. The Environmental Commission has done a lot of work recently. We had a great Earth Day celebration. The Chimney Swift Tower, you might have seen it. It's up. I swear I saw a few swifts go down it, but the population that lives here isn't here yet. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I've also seen people just hanging out. I live on Dayton Street. I've seen people just hanging out in the evening looking for the chimney swifts. So I see a real hope at that being kind of a central location for people to gather in the evening. I gave you a short redaction of the Climate Action Sustainability Plan sheet. I noticed that you plan to look at this as a future agenda item at the next meeting. So I am just here to sort of preface that very briefly. We've met, Marianne and I met with Josue, went over in a very productive meeting, Piper's report. And these changes to this short redaction reflected that meeting, really trying to drill down and focus on the things that would be manageable for us to work on this year. There's a lot of energy behind this. We're meeting as this collection that Marianne and others have brought together of partners in the community. That includes Yellow Springs Village representation, Miami Township representation, people from Agraria, Glen Helen, Tecumseh Land Trust, and the Environmental Commission. So we have great plans for the future. And I'm also here if you had any questions about this document. If not, you'll see us again at the next meeting.
I was just going to say, like, make sure to, feed us what we need on May 27th when we have our retreat, because right now is the opportunity to, I guess, have our ear on prioritizing. So, yep.
Good. I'll take that back to the EC meeting this Thursday, and I'll work with Carmen and Marianne to figure out exactly what we need to feed you.
All right.
Okay.
Sweet. Questions, comments? All right. I will just say, Environmental Commission is awesome. So thank you for all the work that you guys do. I mean, we can't say enough about boards and commissions that add capacity, and you guys really do. So thank you.
We have 7 members now. I think it's in great shape.
Yep.
Long
all right.
years. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Any other boards and commission updates? Okay. Future agenda items.
The proposal for cameras, floating around the ordinance. Your motion's included in that.
We've got our resolution for Pride.
Yep, Lawson Place funding coming back.
Yep.
And then the others items are already listed.
Sweet. Anything else?
Yeah.
Marianne?
At our work session, I will be bringing forward what the Environmental Commission and the working group has been talking about. But I'd also like to have it on the agenda for our June meeting. Climate action.
Is that the climate action update? I've got it on. I do have it on.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Well, and speaking of that, we need to talk about 2022 goal movement in general. So, yep. Okay. Anything
So
else?
report out on the retreat?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, specifically, we need to come out of that session with what we're going to do for the rest of the year. So.
I have an agenda item for both retreat and for future council meeting. That is around the gas aggregation project. It's something that we talked about doing last year, and when our gas contract expired this year, and we were looking to renew that contract, the price point isn't there. So we moved our focus on the gas aggregation. So a little history, the village at one point had a gas aggregation program, and we lost our certification due to compliance issue. So I'm looking to gauge council's interest on reestablishing our gas aggregation program for the village. So I'll bring that up to council and either at the next meeting or at the retreat, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. All right, anything else? Okay. Thank you, everyone. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well,
what?
We got executive session.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, okay. So yeah, we will move into executive session for the purpose of discussing
The compensation and employment of village employees. Do I have, was that a motion?
that was a motion.
I second that motion.
Okay.
All right, Hausch,
Yes.
Stokes,
Yes.
DeVore Leonard,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we will not be coming out of this executive session with any comments. So thanks, everyone. All right. Good to see you.
Separate break.